Charlotte Soccer Show, John Hayes, Danny Brams. We're at a new location, Madison Perk Coffee Bar here right on South Boulevard. It's good to see you. It's great to be here on the show today. I've got a nice coffee. It looks like you do as well.
Yeah, Madison Perk. This is a coffee shop. This is actually very near to my daughter's school, so this is a frequent pop-in spot for me after a drop-off, which didn't go as smooth today as I would have wanted it to, but we are here, and I do love a good coffee cast.
It's Friday. It's always tough to get moving on a Friday morning when you want it to be Friday at 5 p.m. and it's Friday at 5 a.m. In 12 hours, you try to make those go as quick as possible. So we've got a packed show today. We're going to ask a lot of questions. I'm going to ask a lot of questions because that's what I like to do on the show. I like to ask questions.
It's a question cast. We got another game coming up. We don't have a lot of time to linger, but it was a great result on Wednesday, and we want to talk about it.
Yeah, so my first question for you, Danny, is simply, how does Wednesday night's win versus Toronto change the season?
So I think it gives hope. I think a lot of people would say, we had hope the whole time. We never lost hope. Well, I did lose hope because we had one win in 15 games, and people were saying, like, we just need to win our last 4 and we're in. And I'm like, we've won 1 out of 15, y'all. Yeah. How are we going to win 4 in a row? But you get one, and all of a sudden things start to look up. And so it's like, we looked good against Toronto. Highest XG for Charlotte on the season. Lowest XG for an opponent on Charlotte of the season. We completely shut Toronto down.
Right.
Kalina did have to make a couple, 2 diving saves, I think.
Did you notice the one save off a free kick?
That they kind of quick kicked it?
Yes.
Yeah, that would have pissed me off. That would have added to the list of gaffes at very important times of the season. So it was really nice to see him scramble. He was setting up the wall on the right post, and they kicked it, and he had to scramble to the other side of the goal mouth and barely got a touch on the ball to send it wide. It was a nice play by the keeper and almost a smart decision by Toronto to play it quickly. But for some reason, I didn't notice that while we were there on Wednesday night. It was so quick, that's how quick it was.
yeah, totally.
That's how quick it was. And what I loved was it was a midweek match.
Yeah.
I know attendance is a big sort of talking point with this club. High, low, record. Not as good as it was. Whatever. This, that, and the other. I love a big crowd, but I like a medium crowd too. I don't mind sitting. I don't want to be part of a tiny crowd, but I liked sort of the little bit more relaxed vibe. We were able to get really close without having to fight elbows. I love being in the supporter section up close. But sometimes it gets a little claustrophobic. I'm trying to be respectful of other space, and I'm cramming into a tiny space.
Right.
This was a chance to be close, but also sort of let it breathe a little bit, which was nice. And
it was.
I really loved the match.
For what it's worth, the crowd was much better than I anticipated. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes to show how important it is to have that stadium where it is.
Right.
If the stadium was out in Matthews, I promise you there wouldn't have been that many people there.
Yeah.
It's like
it would have been looking like the Plex.
The ability to just walk out of work and hang uptown and just spend the night in Charlotte and go to the match, it's second to none, that experience. And I think when you see an attendance like that on a Wednesday night when your team is 1-1 and 15 in league play, goes to show that the fan base is pretty good.
From that point of view, pretty impressive. And the ability, we're hardcore soccer fans, right? But the ability for a night at a Charlotte FC match to feel like a night out on the town, if you're not a big soccer fan, I think is clutch for this club.
Totally. So there's one thing that I should ask while we're discussing this Toronto match, and it's, should we consider how poor Toronto is before getting excited?
We have to. We certainly have to. Because they're the worst team in the league. They were starting a bunch of no-name nobodies. They have really poor chemistry. I don't know if I mentioned this on air or not, but their best player, Lorenzo Insigne, got in a fight with a fan after their most previous match, and so he was unavailable because he literally had to be restrained from confrontation with a fan post-match last game.
Does he understand? The Canadians, they don't fight. They're the nicest people in the world.
You're fighting a Torontan. Come on.
Unless they're playing hockey.
So we do have to think about that for sure, because we should have had 6. We can think about, hey, if we had gone in there and beat them the 6 or 7-0, we were saying it at the time. Latanzio said it in the post game. We should have had 6. Enzo missed a wide open header that should have gone in. There were a couple other big chance missed. Karol had a goal pulled back for speculative, dubious VAR and things like that. So it just feels it feels good, but we must consider the quality of the opponent, and things get tougher, much tougher on Saturday.
Well, and that's what I'm concerned about at the moment is this idea of fool's gold, right? The idea of, yes, the vibes are good, the result is what you need, but that was expected.
Sure.
Charlotte FC was a resounding favorite pre-match,
right?
And almost as high as like 1 to 3.5.
Yeah, and so it just like I crushed. No one really can truly gain the perspective on this, but maybe it'll give you a little bit of an idea. Is that I've talked about this on the show before. This game's so rare that I play, where it's like a fantasy soccer game with cards. My card collection in the game is very Charlotte heavy because it's a fantasy game and a collecting game, and I like to collect my favorite team.
Yeah.
So this week I absolutely crushed the fantasy game. Like all my Charlotte guys scored amazing scores, and like I was on top of all the leaderboards and everything because like Charlotte was in the nuts matchup, and they were just in the spot where they were like guaranteed to crush, and they did.
So I'm not trying to like put a wet blanket over the vibes and the conversation heading into Chicago. I just want to offer some perspective, and I think that was an important question to ask.
Toronto is a team that's completely adrift. I mean, they're lost. I mentioned Insigne. They have another high-profile Italian, Bernardeschi. He played against us, subbed out at like the 70th minute, just down 3-0, just like defeated. He's like a really good player that destroyed us in the match in Toronto with those 2 corner kicks, if you remember.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The wind blew in against the wind.
Great episode.
But they're you can tell they're nowhere near that same team that we played earlier in the season. They're playing out the string.
That being said, potentially the reason why Charlotte FC plays really well in that match is because for the first time that I can remember in a while, all 3 DPs started up top.
Yeah, in the attack
for Charlotte FC, leading the line. Enzo Capetti, Karol Swiderski, and Kamil Jóźwiak. What was it like to see that?
It was a beautiful thing.
Was it I don't know if it was the first time this year, but it was maybe the second or third.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often.
Right.
But what was it like to see that, number one, and do you expect to see that against Chicago?
I thought it was tremendous. I thought Kamil played great. I thought Kamil played his ass off. There was a couple of passes that I felt we saw from our tactical viewpoint in the supporter section. That there was a couple spots where I was like, oh man, if he had slid that in, it would have been gone. But he was also he was trying some other passes, so it's not like he.
He's always trying. That's what he does really well.
Yeah,
he's the Bulldog. He tries hard, but. How would you rate their performances 1 through 3?
So Karol was a masterclass. I mean, I think I'd have to give Karol. I mean, I'm a bias, but I'd give Karol a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think I'd give him a 9 out of 10 for that game. He was tremendous in terms of like just his dribbling work and his possession and keeping the ball and like beating guys just like towards when the game was not quite out of hand, when it was a little bit more up in the air as a 1-goal margin. Yep. He was really good at keeping the ball. He decisively finished both penalties. He scored another goal that was called back for a dubious offside. He had the assist to De Agra on the scorpion kick.
Right.
He just played a masterclass. So I would almost give him a 10, but I'll give him a 9. Jóźwiak, I'll probably give him I think I'd probably give him like a 6.9 if we're using the SofaScore ratings. I don't quite give him the 7 with no goal, no assist, decisive action. I can't quite give him the although he did have a couple pre-assists, right? Like he had the pre-assist on De Agra. He passed it to Karol, who passed it to Brecht. Yeah. So he played well. He was always in good attacking positions, and I could maybe give him a 7. Let me give Kamil a 7.
Yeah, give him a 7.
Let me give Kamil a 7. Give him the number. And then Enzo, I don't know, man. For his play on the pitch, I'd probably give him a strong 7, maybe even approaching 7.5. But the antics are just too much, man. The way he like. So there's all this deal that was made. We had good vantage points. We posted some fun videos and pictures that we took from our spot because I had seen this before, right? I had seen this in other games when penalties came up and there was a little bit of dispute. So I knew to look. I was trained on it from the right at the jump. As soon as the penalty was called, my eyes go straight to Enzo Karol. Karol's got the ball under his arm. Enzo's begging to take it like a little boy. Like a little brother thing. Like, please, bro, please,
let me do it.
Please, I can take him, Johnny, I can take him. Like that type of thing. And and there's all this deal that's made. Well, Karol should give it to him. Enzo deserved it. Enzo had scored that goal that was disallowed, even though it looked over the line, and so this was his chance to sort of get the goal that he earned back a few moments later. And I'm like. Yeah, but that may be true. I kind of agree that I would have probably given the second one to Enzo. but that doesn't excuse the fact that he was whining just as much on the first one. You know, that he
can't help himself.
He can't help himself. And then remember when Karol had the goal that was called back on the VAR review, and Enzo had literally nothing to do with the play. But if you looked up during the review, there he was standing, as close as he could legally get to the ref, chirping at the VAR review for no reason. And it's do you think that's going to swing the ref's decision one way or the other? You sitting there chirping?
He just always has to be involved in every situation, every match. And for what it's worth, Swiderski was a 9.1, Camille was a 7.2, and Enzo Capetti was a 6.9.
Right, where I pretty much score.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's a good look.
And Capetti, I would almost rate him. He almost loses half a point just for that header miss, which was horrible. The corner kick from Yere to then Malanda heads it back across the box, and Enzo tries to spin it in instead of just putting it with power in the 21st, 22nd minute. When we were up 1-0 and could have gone up 2-0.
The statistic that I wanted to bring up for Enzo Capetti, you said 6.9. I probably would have given him more, probably a 5.7.
Yeah.
Because of the big chances missed.
Yeah.
2 very big chances missed. And when you play that striker role, when you're playing that number 9 position and you have those opportunities inside the 6, you got to get them on net. And for what it's worth, though, and let me give you a caveat here, that 5.8 goes up to a 6.8 pretty quickly if there's goal line technology and that ball crosses the line.
Right.
Because I feel like it's so close and there's not a good angle of it. And if there was goal line technology, I saw a photo that made me think, that was across the line. I don't really know, but
it was one of those. If they had called it a goal on the field, they wouldn't have overruled it.
Totally.
And
it's just another example of why and how VAR is just insane. Considering there's no way to take a look at that.
Right.
But there's a way to take a look at everything else.
Right. And I talked to Level Up Luke about this actually on Saturday Night Post Game. He was livid. Livid up, Luke. He was absolutely furious.
About what?
About the lack of goal line technology. He said these microchips would cost a couple of bucks. You can go get them out of a bargain bin at any computer spare parts shop in Taiwan, and just make it happen, MLS. Yeah. It's not too tough to put some microchips in some balls and figure out some goal line technology.
That's fair enough. And to me, it's not even about the goal line technology. I want the goal line technology. But the idea that you can use VAR to review anything that happens on the field, but when there's a ball that may have crossed the line, VAR is incapable of deciding whether
there's no angle.
Or not. So it's just it's just very strange to me. It's very strange to me, and it happens during a week where VAR is the hot topic of global soccer, and I think there's a discussion to be had about VAR and its usefulness and whether it's actually helped the game or not.
I think it's what we need. We need to move into a new era of what I would call common sense VAR. And I know they have these really strictly worded sort of laws and rules governing VAR that are meant to remove ambiguity. But the truth is there's always going to be ambiguity, so let's just move towards push common sense.
Okay. All right. So let's move on now to Saturday's match. Chicago on Wednesday. It was 1-1 at some point. We were scouting the live table, and Charlotte FC was just a few points out of playoff positioning. And all of a sudden you thought that the draw could happen, which would have been really good for Charlotte FC. And then Chicago goes on an absolute tear in the second half, beats Miami 4-1 on Wednesday night. They looked very, very good. Xherdan Shaqiri absolutely stepping up for his squad in a moment that was not only important on the table, but for the city of Chicago. A full house at Soldier Field. And your talented DP, the highest paid player in MLS, steps up and, used to be the highest paid player in MLS. Steps up. And
the highest paid player in MLS that doesn't also own a share of the league. Yeah.
What's the Fire's current form?
Fire look good, man. Fire are more dangerous now than they were a few weeks ago. You mentioned the full house, and Shaqiri mentioned the full house. I saw his post-game interview on MLS 360, and he was like, he loved, Shaq. Xherdan Shaqiri is it's kind of funny that he's in MLS here and he kind of gets overlooked as totally. You don't think about the fact that this guy was one of the biggest superstars in the world in the international game, playing World Cup, playing for Liverpool. Shaq is the man, and it's funny that he's in MLS sometimes when you think about it. He's had injuries and he's kind of getting older is the reasoning, but he said, "Oh man, I can't do his accent. I can't quite do that Swiss Kosovoan accent, but I will say that he said, man, just to play in front of a packed Soldier Field, he said, when this place is packed, we're playing. It's a completely different world, and like, you know."
Yeah, that's real.
I went back to look at some of the highlights of our game at Chicago last year. You remember the Karol stoppage time wizard goal, and he just kind of passed it to himself and did a little spinorama shooter. Awesome night. The stands were empty. Like there was no one in there because Chicago was pretty much eliminated. But now they've captured this form. You asked me how their form was. Their form is on fire. Chicago's on fire, and our defense might be a little terrified because they're kind of like a workman-like team. They don't have any like real super flashy guys outside Shaqiri, but they have young talents. They have veteran talents. There's a guy named Gaston Jimenez that holds down their midfield. They got Brian Gutierrez up top. They got this other guy, Koutsias is their newer striker who's been rounding into form this year. So they got some danger men. I don't know. They're beatable, but I do think their 4-1 win in Miami is about as deceptive as our 3-0 win over Toronto. Miami, without Messi and Alba, don't forget, lost, what was it, 12, 13 games in a row earlier this year.
Totally.
So like, without those guys.
There's a reason why, I mean, think about it this way. Charlotte beat the 15th team in MLS, and Chicago beat the 14th team in the Eastern Conference.
So
on Wednesday night. So
it's
both teams did the job that they were supposed to do.
It's now we're going into a hostile environment, and that's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, and it's interesting to kind of figure out and see what kind of fire support exists on Saturday night, because it was supposed to be the Messi match, and the reason why it was sold out is because it was the Messi match, not because it was the fire match.
That is true. That's a good point, and I wasn't thinking about that.
So who knows on Saturday night? And I was gonna, one follow-up question I wanted to ask, and this is just me kind of thinking about the mental aspect of the game. This is a really quick turnaround for Chicago team that probably had the highest of highs on Wednesday night. They've got to turn around and follow that up on Saturday. It could be a bit of a letdown situation. Maybe it could be that for Charlotte too, but sometimes on a road trip, you can have a business-like mentality. Chicago, are they in a letdown situation potentially? Right. Not taking Charlotte as seriously as they took Miami?
I would have to hope so, for sure. You're right. You make a great point about it being the Messi game. Shout out Charlotte for offering, or shout out Chicago, for offering buy one get one tickets for everyone, because since Messi wasn't there, that's cool. I like what you're saying there. That actually kind of gives me a little hope. Like that gives that, or not that I had no hope, but just like that kind of is like, that's a point in our favor in terms of like our guys have been in this mode, this bunker mentality for a long time, and even though it didn't necessarily show fruits with all the draws and then the losses to New England, like in Cincinnati, the mentality starts to pay off, and like it's like a cumulative effect for sure.
I'm excited to see whether Christian Latanzio runs back the same squad on Saturday. Knowing him, I would say that he does.
I think Lindsey might start. I think Yere just looked he seemed like he took a knock. He subbed out early.
Okay.
I don't think Yere will be ready to go again on Saturday, but we'll see.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. So
I loved the 3 DPs though, and Miram as a sub. We love J22, but
yeah, I mean Miram and Arfield both came in late. Yeah. Would have liked to see them come in a little earlier with up at 3-0, but I'm not here to debate that today. I've got a couple more questions for you.
Bronny was cooking in the final third.
Yeah, what's too bad is that Bronico's his touch,
his back heel
that
assist
led to the Swiderski goal that was chalked off for offside. And for what it's worth, Bronny Bro was offside on that. I went and watched the replay, very, very slow motion, and it was hard to see with the naked eye, and that's why the referee missed it. But when you slowed it down, you could clearly see that he was off, and that's too bad because it was a beautiful touch by Bronny Pro, and that's typically what he does. He whenever the dogs are barking, whenever people are saying that he's not good enough to play, he typically puts in a good shift, and he certainly did on Wednesday. So right now the table looks like this. Chicago is in 8th with 40 points, Montreal in 9th with 38, New York City in 10th with 38, DC United 37, New York Red Bulls 37, and there's Charlotte FC with 36.
Yeah.
So those are the teams that are fighting for that 8 and 9 spot, and just want to take a look at Saturday night's matches besides Charlotte FC and Chicago to kind of take a look at what people should have their eye on. Because remember, there's an hour there's an hour of soccer before things kick off at 8:30 Eastern.
Right.
So
and I'm gonna be in the sports bunker on Saturday, Johnny.
Nice.
I'm bunkering up. I'm in the bunker with the team. I may even turn off the phone. I may, who knows? I may just
you should, man. Why not? Yeah, a nice day to just relax, kick back, watch some soccer, and from sun up. You can start with Tottenham and Luton Town at 7:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, and then you can finish with Charlotte FC.
Is that at Luton? If
yes,
it's at Luton, I'll get. Okay, I'll get up if it's at Luton just to see the grounds for sure.
It absolutely is. So at 7:30, what do you got your eye on?
New York and DC, I think, is the first one that catches the eye because they're two teams that are between us and the playoffs, and they're playing each other. So
what's the ideal result there?
The ideal result, I would say, would be a draw. For me, because we're kind of chasing both.
Yeah.
And we just want to limit the points of both. We don't want either one of them to get too far out in front of us. Now, DC, this is their last game of the year.
I don't mind a DC United win.
I don't mind a DC United win. Yeah, I do not mind a DC United win because we are trying to jump New York City. Like, you got to figure we'll jump DC anyway if we get one or if we get the 2 of 3. There's a question of do we need 2 wins or do we need 3 wins? It's kind of complicated by the fact that we need a win against Chicago.
Let me ask you this question: why is DC United not playing on decision day?
Great question that I don't know the answer to.
And that must mean somebody else isn't playing on decision day too.
No, it's because there's the one extra team. There's the one extra team this year until San Diego joins next year, right?
Oh, typical. That's very typical of MLS.
Yeah. I think so. If I'm counting right, I could be counting wrong.
And for what it's worth, and you can quote me on this. Saturday's DC United match at home against New York City will be the final matchup for Wayne Rooney's tenure there at DC.
Yeah, I'd have to think so. It's crazy that's DC's final match on October 7th?
Yes.
And then the season doesn't end until the 20th. They're done 2 weeks before everybody else.
Very weird scheduling.
I have to investigate that to say exactly how that happened.
Yeah. Very weird scheduling. And then Inter Miami is hosting Cincinnati.
I mean, we'd love to see.
That's a Cincinnati.
It doesn't really. I mean, it really doesn't. That result means nothing to me. I would just like to see in Miami get beat up because we're going to have to beat Miami.
Yeah, that's fair.
Miami's not the team we're chasing. We're trying to hold them off when we play them. So.
Right. I completely disagree with you for what it's worth. I mean, that game means everything. Inter Miami needs to lose. Why would it? Why
beat them down?
Just have them lose. Like, it's like if we're discussing what do you want to see?
Yeah, okay.
You want to see them lose.
All right, fair enough.
Because Cincinnati's already won.
You're correct.
Let's just.
I'm going to say something that you rarely hear in America these days, which is I was wrong. You're correct.
And then here's the issue. The next game on the docket at 7:30 is New York Red Bulls, and they're hosting
our friends in Toronto.
That game has a chance to just be 5-0 Red Bulls.
Right. Toronto is clearly just giving up on the season,
which isn't ideal. Red Bulls can get up to 40 points in that situation, and even if Charlotte FC gets a draw at Chicago, it's still now 3 points back.
Yeah.
So that to me is one of the biggest matches on match day, and I think it's hard to look at that objectively and say that Toronto has a chance to get a result at New York Red Bulls. It's just not going to happen.
So we got to sort of just put the Red Bulls on 40 points there heading into decision day.
Totally.
And let's. If we give ourselves one, if we just were to give ourselves, let's say, one win against Miami and put ourselves on 39 with 2 to play, it comes down to this: we can afford a slip up against Miami. We can afford one draw against in the 2 games against Miami if we beat Chicago.
Yeah.
If we don't beat Chicago, that almost kind of screws us, regardless of what we do against Miami. So that's why this Saturday is so important.
Final question: Karol Swiderski is called up for Poland. He and that's not a surprise for what it's worth.
Right.
Karol Swiderski is a mainstay in Poland's national team, and he will continue to be called up.
It's more of a surprise if he's not called up.
That's right, exactly. And the question is, will he be back for Charlotte FC's game at Miami on October 18th? It's that Wednesday night game, the only game in MLS that night. It's the makeup game. Because these 2 squads were supposed to play, they went too far in the League's Cup.
Yeah,
both these squads did.
The League's Cup scheduling makeup
situation.
So
I'm fairly certain on the 18th that's the only MLS game which would be fun to have kind of like a solo window.
Who doesn't love a little standalone?
But maybe I'm wrong. About the 18th.
We can double check that in a second. What I was checking in order to answer your question.
It's the only game in soccer that day, because in club soccer.
Yeah, because everyone's still coming back.
Yes,
from their breaks.
yeah.
Absolutely insane. So
Swiderski's final game for Poland of this window is on the 15th, which is a Sunday.
Yep.
Poland will be playing Moldova.
Yep.
At 2:45 p.m. Eastern
that's
time.
after a trip to the Faroe Islands a few days earlier.
Karol Swiderski he's a world traveler here for Charlotte FC, and it's going to be a lot of travel time to get back.
And also worth checking. I don't know the status as of this recording, but Lewandowski got hurt.
He's not in the squad
for Barcelona. He's not called up.
No.
Okay, so this is a chance for Karol to maybe start as that striker that and against two weak opponents, he's got to be licking his chops. I hope he's not more focused on that than he is on the Chicago match, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I think that's the catch-22 of having a international player, right. And I think there's probably Charlotte FC is in its inaugural season and now in its second season. It doesn't have a lot of experience with international players who represent their country at the highest level and play an important position. To have someone like Karol Swiderski on your squad go play starting striker for Poland during European Championship qualifying.
Right.
I got to be honest with you, that's really important for Karol Swiderski.
And those are must-win games because they're sitting at 4th out of 5 teams in their group more than halfway through.
Karol's going to play a lot.
Yeah.
Karol's going to play a lot in those games, and he's going to finish up on Sunday evening and hop on a flight Monday, and be back
to Charlotte
to
Monday
Miami on Tuesday.
But he'll probably come to Charlotte and then go to Miami.
I'd go straight to Miami.
I just don't think he's going to play. I would almost preemptively expect him to be out for that Wednesday the 18th match against Miami.
This is my plea to any journalists who are on Christian Latanzio's pre-match press conference today. Ask the question.
Right.
Do you expect Karol Swiderski to be available for the match on 10/18 versus Miami? And if he doesn't have a plan in place, if he can't answer that question, then
what? Then what can we say other than what that's worse than what we've already said many times on the show? Yeah,
totally. So it's been a great episode. Thanks for answering these questions, Danny. I think you've done a nice job.
I feel like I'm in the Budweiser hot seat. I appreciate it very much.
Oh, is that like the Budweiser hot seat? Is that an old TV show reference? What was the hot seat? You know what I'm talking about?
That's like 2004, 2005 era ESPN. They would have the Budweiser hot seat segment on Sports Center.
Yes. Okay, good.
And they would grill just a random interview of the day type of thing.
Yeah, and I remember that segment vividly. Yeah. The Budweiser hot seat. That's good brand partnership right there.
Yeah.
Budweiser hot seat. We're gonna have to put level up Luke on the Budweiser hot seat.
We've got questions. He's got answers.
You can follow us on Twitter @ForTheCrownBaby. Follow us on Instagram, Charlotte Soccer City. And we shouldn't wrap up the episode without mentioning the fact that the Independents got absolutely drubbed on Wednesday night. It was a 4-1 loss on the road. It doesn't matter really for their playoff hopes. They've clinched, but I think it does matter for potential hosting.
Yeah, they need to win. They need a win to host now, I believe.
Yeah, so really, really tough to go on the road like that and get absolutely worked.
The final home game, American Legion Memorial Stadium, October 14th, the MLS off week. No excuse not to be there.
And also wanted to mention the fact that Crown Legacy, who was honored on the pitch Saturday night, it was good to see that.
Loved it.
A lot of those players, might be on the pitch next year for Charlotte FC, actually wearing the Charlotte FC kits and playing for the first team. They've got a match 3:00 on Sunday against Columbus Crew 2. Big match.
Check out our Instagram for ticket giveaway.
Yes, apparently we've got 4 tickets to give away.
We're giving them away.
Giving away 4 tickets.
We're making it simple. All you got to do is follow us on Instagram.
Yep. It's that simple.
Just follow us on Instagram, and we will be doing a drawing Friday. Let's say we'll do it Saturday morning before the Charlotte FC match kicks off. We'll let you know.
Yep.
You got tickets on Sunday morning.
Yep.
For,
so 3:00, MLS Next Pro playoffs. Columbus Crew visiting Crown Legacy at Matthews Sportsplex, and I think what I've been told, what I've come to understand is that I think the Blue Fury is showing up, the Drumline's showing up, and it's going to be quite the party.
Here's what I'm going to say. Next week, we will have Charlotte FC won't be playing. We're not going to be short for content. Sunday, there's going to be 2 matches at the Sportsplex on Sunday. The one on the pitch and the one in the stands. Let's just put it that way. Hopefully we all come out winners.
Yeah, it's the Charlotte Soccer Show. Make sure you get out to the Plex on Sunday to support the squad. Hopefully, Charlotte FC gets a win on Saturday night, and then you can go celebrate on Sunday at the Plex. That would be ideal.
Absolutely insane.
That would be the ideal situation.
Playoff soccer is here this weekend in Charlotte, and it's going to continue. We're hoping the Independents get to host. We have not ruled out on the chance for Charlotte FC to host, but it starts this weekend. Playoff soccer is here.
It's that time of the year. It's fall in the QC. The temperatures are dropping. It's feeling pretty good. We're going to go fill up our coffee mugs and get the heck out of here. It's been a pleasure to be here at Madison Perk Coffee Bar. Make sure you check it out. A really cool spot to come hang out in the morning, get some work done. Until next time.
For the crown, baby.